Right now, millions of people are screaming at a television because of a jersey color. Grown adults are crying over a game they didn't play. Strangers are calling other strangers monsters, cheaters, disgraces, all because of which flag they stood under when they were born. This is the World Cup, and on the surface, it looks like sport. But the real answer is far stranger. What you're watching isn't about football at all. It's a 50,000-year-old survival machine running exactly as designed inside a stadium. You already know the feeling. Your team scores and something floods your chest that has nothing to do with logic. Your team loses and a stranger in the wrong colors suddenly feels like an enemy. You didn't choose to feel this. It chose you. So why does a piece of cloth make you love people you've never met and despise people who've done nothing to you personally? The answer starts with a psychologist named Henri Tajfel. In the 1970s, he ran a series of experiments now called the minimal group studies. He took total strangers, boys with no history together, and split them into two groups. He didn't split them by anything meaningful. He split them by a coin flip, dressed up as a preference for one abstract painter over another. That's it. No shared beliefs, no shared history, no real stakes. And still, something happened almost instantly. The boys started favoring their own group. They gave more rewards to strangers who shared their meaningless label. They gave less to strangers on the other side. Nobody told them to do this. Nobody threatened them. Your brain, it turns out, doesn't need a real reason to pick a side. It just needs a side to exist. Tajfel called this social identity theory. The idea is simple and a little unsettling. Part of who you are isn't really about you. It's borrowed from the group you belong to. Your team wins, and some part of your own identity wins with it. Your team loses, and some part of you loses too. That's why a stranger crying over a missed penalty isn't overreacting. Their sense of self is temporarily fused to 11 people they've never met. But why would evolution build a brain this easy to hijack? Why would something so irrational be so universal? Because for most of human history, groups weren't optional. They were survival. Your ancestors didn't live alone on the savannah, fending for themselves like some lone action hero. They lived in small, tight bands, and a person cut off from the group usually didn't last long. No group meant no food sharing when you failed a hunt. No group meant no protection while you slept. Being alone wasn't freedom. It was often a death sentence. So the brain adapted. It learned to bond fast, and it learned to bond fiercely, because loyalty to the group used to be the difference between eating and starving, between safety and exposure. That's the wiring underneath the jersey. When you scream for your team, some ancient part of your mind genuinely believes your tribe's survival is on the line. There's a second piece to this puzzle, and it comes from a psychologist named Muzafer Sherif. In 1954, he ran what's now known as the Robber's Cave experiment. He took a group of ordinary 11-year-old boys to a summer camp, split them into two teams, and watched what happened when those teams started competing. It didn't take long. Within days, boys who'd been perfectly friendly started calling the other team cheaters. They raided each other's cabins. They tore down each other's flags. Kids who might have been friends under different circumstances became bitter rivals simply because they'd been placed on opposite sides of a tug-of-war. Sound familiar? It's the same energy you see in a stadium full of adults, decades later, screaming about a handball. Here's the counterintuitive twist, though. Sherif didn't stop at division. He wanted to know if the hostility could be undone. So he had the two teams face a problem neither side could solve alone. Their water supply broke, and both teams had to fix it together. Suddenly, the enemy became a teammate. The US versus them wall didn't dissolve because someone gave a speech about unity. It dissolved because they needed each other. That detail matters more than it seems. Tribal hatred isn't really about the other group being bad. It's about your brain needing a boundary to know where us ends. Give people a shared threat, a shared task, a shared goal, and the line moves. The stranger in the wrong jersey stops being the enemy and starts being the guy next to you, hoarse from cheering the same anthem. So what does this have to do with the racist chants aimed at rival fans this tournament, or the conspiracy theories about matches being fixed, or the online mobs forming around a single controversial call? It's the oldest trick your mind knows, playing out at planetary scale. A researcher named Robin Dunbar has spent decades studying how many people a human brain can realistically hold close relationships with. His number, famously, sits around 150. That's roughly the size of the ancestral bands your brain evolved to navigate. Not 8 billion people, not even 8 million. Your brain was never built to hold a fair, nuanced, individualized opinion of 198 other countries. It wasn't built to process millions of anonymous fans as separate, complicated human beings. So it does what it's always done. It compresses. It sorts everyone outside your tribe into a single blurry mass. And it's far easier to be cruel to a blur than to a person. That's why a fan can scream something vicious at a rival supporter. Someone who is, in every meaningful way, just like them. Someone with a job, a family, a bad knee, a favorite meal. The chant doesn't see any of that. It only sees the wrong color. Is this despair then? Are you just a puppet of a 50,000-year-old survival circuit, doomed to tribal hostility every 4 years? Not quite. Because the same studies that reveal the problem also reveal the exit. Tajfel's strangers didn't need a real reason to bond, which means the boundary is more flexible than it feels. Sherif's campers didn't need years of therapy to reconcile. They needed one shared task. The tribal instinct isn't a flaw to be ashamed of. It's a tool, and tools can be redirected. Notice what actually happens during a tournament like this one. For a few weeks, your tribe quietly expands. It's not just your hometown anymore. It's your entire country. Millions of people you'll never meet suddenly folded into us. Somewhere on the other side of that same stadium, another set of strangers is doing the identical thing, feeling the identical thing, for a different set of colors. The instinct that divides people is the exact same instinct capable of uniting them once the boundary line gets redrawn wide enough. That's the real story sitting underneath the shouting and the flags and the outrage. It's not really about football. It's not really about who's cheating or who's fixing what. It's about an ancient survival system tuned for bands of 150 people, now running at the scale of nations with nobody at the controls but instinct. So the next time you feel that surge of fury at a jersey, or that flood of love for a stranger who happens to share your colors, pause for 1 second before you let it run the show. That feeling isn't really about the game. It's 50,000 years old, borrowed from a version of you that once needed a tribe just to survive the night. You're not overreacting to a match. You're listening to an ancestor.